Probation can close for you individually before it closes generally.
Can you please explain the investigative judgment and how probation closes for different people at different times?
The investigative judgment, simply put, is a reference to one of the feasts that was held by the Israelites. It was one of the fall feasts, which was celebrated on the 10th day of the 7th month. It was called the Day of Atonement. On that day, it was really a day of judgment where people had to examine their lives. The priest made an offering for himself, for the people. Then Azazel was, the sins were put on him. He was taken off by a fit man into the wilderness, and the camp was cleansed from all sin forever, symbolically. And then a new religious year began. The veil in the temple was changed because blood had been put on it for a year. It was changed, a brand new one was put up, and the new year began. Now, and typically, that began October 22, 1844. Based on the prophecies of Daniel. From October 22, 1844, Christ moved from the holy place to the most holy to begin another phase in his priestly ministry. That's a phase of judgment, where he is examining the lives. He's beginning with those who have professed a relationship with him, going all the way back to Abel. Are you following me? The first person to die for Christ. And when this is finished with the living, with the dead, then Christ moves to the living. First Peter 4, verse 17, for the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God. And so Christ begins with the church. Ezekiel 9, God told the destroying angel, start at my altar or my temple and start your work of destruction. And so it begins with the church and then moves out from the dead to the living. When that work is done, there will be a global closing of probation. Are you following me? Christ takes off his mitre, which is what the priest wears. He puts on a kingly crown, changes his robes, puts on kingly garments, leaves the most holy place, and starts to come for us. When he says, Ellen White says, an angel goes up to heaven and tells Christ the work on earth is done, and the sealing is done. People have made up their minds to obey God or obey the devil. And their decisions are fixed. When that is announced, Christ ends his work and begins his return to this earth. Now, I told you before, probation can close for you individually before it closes generally. Ellen White writes in Patriarchs and Prophets 140, paragraph 1, every day the probation of some is closing. Every hour some are passing beyond the reach of mercy. Saul's probation closed while he was still king. God said, because you rejected me, I've rejected you. 1 Samuel 16:14, the Spirit of the Lord left him. And when the Spirit goes, he's gone. Because God gives us enough time to do what's right. There are people in churches, they attend every Sabbath, every Sunday, probation closed, but they're driven by the force of habit. But if you are still concerned about your spiritual life, if you still feel convictions, you know the Spirit is still wrestling with you. So there are closing of probations individually. But then there will be a global closing of probation when the work of Christ is finished completely and he comes back to this earth. Now, this is going on right now. As we speak, the judgment is going on. We don't know if Christ has passed from the dead to the living. We don't know. All we know is today you can make a decision to be right with God. We do not know